Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have an evening with the Cannon Falls Historical Society. We'd like to welcome you. We have a lot of interesting things to talk over tonight and to show. First off, before we forget, I'd like to thank Mike Gesme for doing the hard work to set up and take care of all the information and the filming. And our guest tonight is Chuck Drometer, lifelong resident, 78 years, Cannon Falls. If there's any history you need to know, he knows it. My name is Luvy Rapp, and we're just going to go through some items. It's a nice evening in October, the 29th of 2015, and we want to record some of these things for history's sake because there's so many great things that people haven't seen. First off, we're going to start off. Chuck's going to tell us a little bit about the old barber pole, and I'll let Chuck take over.
Okay, this barber pole belonged to Frank A. Barlow.
Frank A. Barlow.
Barlow, yeah. And it was in front of the barber shop, right at the corner by the stoplights.
And that would have been where the old corner cafe.
Yeah, between the corner cafe and the next building, there was a post office for a while.
Okay.
There's where it was for many, many years, starting in 1887, I think. And then when it was removed, I know it went to Carlo Heilig's greenhouse. They drilled holes in it and put rods through there and used it for a coat rack. And from there, I don't know where it went, but many years after that, I purchased it. And,
so it's the late 1800s.
Yep, and it's
still has
somebody's repainted it.
Yeah.
And now
you can barely see the original red
the
striping,
reverse.
reverse striping, not the
regular barber
barber pole. But it's in perfect condition, other than the holes. It's
and
quite
we do
an
have
item.
pictures of it. These are both about 1908, 1907.
This would be the corner cafe. Just to the south of the front door was the old barber pole, sitting right off the main window, right on the corner of the intersection where the stoplights are.
And we have 3 different photos of it from about 1908, 1907. And then in the barber shop was this cash register that Frank owned. He bought it, and he must have been having a good year in 1910 when he bought this cash register.
Looks like a national. It had to be top of the line.
Yep, it was a national cash register. It's a number 313. 312 is probably the most collectible. Let's see if I can get the drawer out here. And you can see right here the day he bought it. It says, what's it say? F. Barlow, Canton Falls, it says. It's not Cannon Falls. Canton Falls, Minnesota. And he bought it on, I think it was the 10th. The date's on there somewhere.
It's hard to see. It's so faded. That
213. Oh. 7/10/1910.
July 10th, 1910.
And you can tell all the old cash registers up to 1928 had horse blanket holes for the big dollar bills. So if you buy a cash register and it's got a big one, you know it was probably made before 1928.
That's very interesting.
And as long as we're talking about cash registers and money, here's a national currency note. They were made about 1930. And it says First National Bank, Cannon Falls, Minnesota. It's signed by Clifford Gress and Swanson. That was cashier and president of the bank.
The people that read the historical notes in the museum know that Clifford Gress was the man that gave all the quarters to the kids. Was it at every 4th of July?
Yep. Down at the
Riverside Park. Any kid that showed up got a quarter. So he made sure every child got one. So his name is on this bill. It says Cannon Falls.
And this number 13713 would have been the first the National Bank's
Bank number or
federal bank number.
federal bank
So
number?
every bill, they only made them in 5s, 10s, and 20s. And that number is on all of them plus a serial number.
How many of these do you think are around?
There's not very many around. Last Jake Kagan had 2, a 5 and a 10. And I think Paul Bringold's probably got a couple of them.
How many years?
But I've never seen a 20.
How many years do you figure you've had this in your collection?
I've only had it 1 year.
1 year.
1 year. That note probably goes for about $1,000 right
Okay.
now.
Wow.
Here's something. This is new now. That's First National Bank, when they had their 100th anniversary, they put together 10 or $1 bills, 10 in a
10
package,
in a package.
and the serial numbers all go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Here's the smallest U.S. coin ever minted. It's a $1 gold piece. They run that for about 5 years, and it was so small and unhandy that they pressed.
1853, and then
They made it bigger in, I think it was 1883.
1883.
1883.
$1 gold.
It's the same amount of gold. They just squeezed it, and it made it.
I could see how they could get lost so easily. And it says $1 on the back. $1, 1853. $1, 1883.
And there was 3 different types. One a closed wreath, one open wreath, and I don't know what the other one was. But they're fairly rare.
Pure gold.
Pure gold. 90%.
90% gold.
If you want a modern day collectible, get your hands on one of these. Doc Mulliner has quit making knives.
He's probably been doing it, what, 20 years?
25 years.
He starts with a piece of steel, and everything is done by hand.
Yeah, they're all done by hand, and they're all signed R-E-M.
REM for Robert E. Mulliner. All the handles are made of different woods.
Exotic woods.
Stones, bones.
This is some kind of a sea
urchin.
Yeah, in leather. The secondary market on these knives is raising real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a couple of them go across at flea markets.
And you've talked to him, and I just talked to him a month ago. He said he finally had to quit making knives.
Yeah, he can't do it with his hands anymore. So if you get a chance to buy one of those, it's going to be a super collectible coming down the road. This is original Cannon Falls road sign. These were used in about 1920, 15s to 25.
Mm-hmm.
And
there are many of these left. There's one in the local bar downtown.
Gave it to him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Another piece of the collection of Chuck Drometer.
And
these are made out of tin.
And they're both left hand and right hand.
Okay.
They were both made both ways. And this is I think this was made during the war years when there wasn't any metal, and it's a Cannon Valley Fair. They never said what year it was, but I think they're in the 40s. They're extremely rare. Paper just disappears and disintegrates, but I did have 3 of them.
And we just celebrated the 100th anniversary of the fair.
So, Cannon Falls is noted for its flour mills.
Some of the best flour mills in the country for many years.
There was 19 flour mills from Faribault to the Mississippi River, and then there was 2 on the Little Cannon River. So I think there was 21 flour mills. This is one of the flours they made was Vanity Fair, and you can always tell this is a 49-pound bag. During the war, or right after the war, they went from 49 to 50 pounds. So you used to have 12.5-pound bags, 24-pound bags, and 49-pound bags, and 98-pound bags. Yeah. But they all went to 25, 50, and 100 after the war. If you want to find, they made telephone flour, Paragon flour, aeroplane flour, I was going to bring the telephone sack, but they closed the restaurant too early today, and I didn't get into it.
I know a lot of the readings in the Historical Society, you can find that everybody wanted to bring their flour to Cannon Falls.
Yeah, they made
because it was some of the purest flour in the nation.
And so if you want to find one of the rare sacks, you got to go to Europe, because I think most of the flour is shipped to Europe during the war and before the war. And they also made these little notepads
For the wives, and
yeah,
they could put their grocery list with a little pencil. Cannon Valley Milling, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Mills of Cannon Falls.
all these things were purchased in Cannon Falls. You know what that is, Luvy?
Well, we talked about it the night of the his meeting. I think, if my memory serves me, it was something to cut flax.
No, it's that's how you thrash the flax with that. The little round heads you beat. You just pounded. You laid the flax heads down there and you hit like this here.
And that would knock the seed out of the head.
Yeah, break the little head. This is a 1839.
1839.
And you can see it's been used a lot because it's.
Would that be a Norwegian?
That's Norwegian.
Norwegian colors.
Yep. It's a good old piece.
Very rare.
Bought in Cannon Falls.
Very
But
rare.
I don't know who I bought it from.
Okay.
I know nothing about this basket, but if we show it to enough people, we're going to find out about
It
it.
says P.N. Nielsen,
Cannon
Cannon
Falls,
Falls, Minnesota, hand carved.
all hand done, hand woven.
On the opposite side, they made a homemade latch with a wooden top. It looks like new, very well taken care of. What year do you think something like this was?
Yeah, it's got square nails in it, and it's riveted.
More than likely, this would have been a picnic basket to go to the lake.
Yep, and
That's
it does have regular. No, those are rivets.
yeah,
aren't they?
it's got
those are rivets.
old nails. Yeah.
Yep. So,
But probably a picnic basket that went out to Lake Billsby, to the Big Falls.
Big Falls. Yep.
It's probably been there.
Yep. So if anybody knows who P.N. Nielsen is, we'll put a little history with it. I think at the meeting the other night, you were the only one that knew where this came from.
I happen to have an apron, and in my cabin at home, I found an apron, and it said H.L. Trimble, but it said Lumber Company.
Yep, it was a lumber company.
So it was, they had cement, lumber, and that would have been across the street from Lee Chevrolet?
Nope,
No, it would have
nope.
been up
It was where Doc Mullner's old office was.
the street near the museum.
Yep, right up by the museum.
Okay.
This is a porcelain sign,
Yep.
and it's
Very nice.
it's some 100 years old.
Okay. And there isn't a lot of history on H.L. Trimble in
no.
Cannon Falls.
All we know, it was a lumber yard, and
There's
okay.
a cup of the Cannon
Falls
Falls
High-
High School.
Yep.
The first stone high school they built up now
in
are the 1880s.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is Schofield Brothers. They did more pieces of the high school. There's celery dishes, there's cups, there's saucers, there's plates. I don't know how many different pieces I
Bottom
have.
is stamped "Made in Germany for Schofield Brothers of Cannon Falls, Minnesota."
Yep. So Schofield and Skoog Brothers did
Yep.
a lot of that.
Wheelock, made in Germany for Skoog Brothers. The Bazaar, Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
And the two most favorite subjects that were ever on any of the Cannon Falls stuff is a school, the old school, and then when they added on to the school in 1906, and the Great Falls, the Big Falls, before the lake covered it up.
Here on the back, if you didn't notice, they put a four-leaf clover imprinted right into the stone.
And see, that was that for
That was for the Skoog Brothers
Skoog
again,
Brothers, yeah.
about 1903.
Nils Skoog Bazaar, that is. And that's a picture of the Big Falls,
Yep.
what Lake Billsby covers up now.
Yep.
We did get to see where it was when they drained the lake.
Yeah, they are draining the lake now, so you get to see it again.
Are they going to drain it again?
Yeah, they're draining it some now. Okay. Now here I have a Seth Hardware, a little thermometer of a campfire with a cowboy and his horse.
Yeah.
Telephone 59, Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
They were giveaways at Christmas time.
It says blaze a trail with better values.
Here's one of the, a little cup with the Cannon Falls street scene.
4th Street, Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
Way before cars. And there's a street light in there.
That would be looking at the old barber shop,
Yep.
where the Chamber of Commerce is, looking north down Main Street. And that was the Skoog Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just decorative?
Yep. It was a giveaway advertising. That's just us.
Souvenir Cannon Falls.
I got hundreds of different types of souvenirs of Cannon Falls. That's just a little bowl with Cannon Falls in it.
Okay.
Here's where I work at the present time. Isn't that Windy Acres?
Windy Acres, which is now the
Countryside
Antique Mall.
Cannon
Falls.
They were giveaways.
And this is made out of what material?
That's
it's not a plastic.
No, it's.
I can't think of it.
I can't think of it right now. I'll think of it. Here's something that nobody ever sees. I have a few of them. North Home Dairy was run by Matson, and it was out north of town. You know where it was?
No,
right where Bramer lives, where Bramers lived.
Okay, right out on the corner.
Yep. North Home Dairy.
Turning on 20.
And he bottled milk and was delivered in Cannon Falls.
That's a very rare piece.
And this, you know what this is, Luvy?
I thought it was a broom holder.
It is.
Okay. Lumblad and Johnson, dealers in flower feed, field and garden seeds. We also pay highest cash prices for eggs, poultry, and veal. Phone 207, Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
And you just slid
and it still works.
Yep, you just slid your broom in there and it hung on the wall. As far as I know, this is the only piece that was ever made in Red Wing with Cannon Falls advertising on it. It says Minnesota Stoneware on the bottom.
Stoneware.
It's Oscar Swanson's Fine Wines and Liquors.
Tell us a little bit about Oscar.
He ordered in am I on the right page?
Yep. In 1906.
Here, Oscar Swanson, right there. July 25th, 1906, he ordered 125 half-gallon jugs and 75 one-gallon jugs. I've never been able to buy a one-gallon jug, but there are 75 of them out there. But I got one. And then on March 22nd, 1907, he ordered 150 half-gallon jugs. So it's a lot easier to find a half-gallon jug than a one-gallon jug.
And there's another smaller one out there, too, I believe.
Well,
there's three sizes.
That's a little...
I don't know, they call it a quart? Or
no, it's a mini. It's a little mini jug. It was an advertising jug. So there was only 150 and 75. There was 225 of those and 75 of the one-gallon jug. So if you got a one-gallon jug, it's pretty rare.
They're the rarest. Okay.
And they've been around for 107 years.
So he was in business in the early 1900s.
Yep.
Selling wines and liquors.
That's and how I looked up the information on this. Red Wing, Larry Peterson from Red Wing copied all the orders that advertising jugs orders that were made from 1892 to 1914. And they're all in this book.
So they're all in that.
Cannon Falls had a lot of custard glass with advertising done on them. This is a napkin holder, a creamer, and that's a cup.
More of a coffee cup?
Yeah. And they generally had roses on them, and then it would always say Souvenir Cannon Falls.
Okay.
This piece here is especially good. It's made by Heisey Glass Company. If you look in there, you see a H with a diamond with a H in it.
Oh yeah, I do. Yep.
And that's Heisey Glass.
Okay.
Very, very top of the line glass.
And they're rimmed with gold.
Yeah. You find them now. Most of the gold is wore off.
Yeah.
My neighbor was Oscar Paulrud, and when he had his 1964 to 1984, his 20 years at Hampton, he had those made.
A little shot glass, like a.
I don't know. He didn't tell his wife, but he gave me one.
Okay.
And he also made a knife, which I can't find what I did with it, with a train on the blade.
Very delicate piece. It's only attached on the lower part of the handle. Okay, we've got all kinds of different piggy banks, savings banks, Security State Bank, Cannon Falls. I have the First National Bank, Cannon Falls.
And the Citizen State Bank, Cannon Falls.
They were items given out to people for coming in and
kids,
saving, giving
start
to
their
their
saving
kids.
account.
And they were able to open them with a key.
The bank had the key to open them.
Oh, the bank kept the key. For them.
The bank had the key.
Interesting.
Everybody comes and asks me for a key, and I said, I can't open your piggy bank.
Okay. What year do you think a lot of these were in the?
Well, this bank was 1885 to 1933.
Okay.
I don't know if I have that one dated. What bank is this?
That's First National Bank.
They're still going.
Yep.
Or they're not still going, but it's still here.
Okay.
And that's Security. That's where the antique shop is.
Yep.
This was probably one of my greatest finds. It took me 20 years to put it together.
All leather bound.
Leather bound. You got to show. It's a Bank of Cannon Falls. They opened in March of 1887 and closed 7 years later.
So we have the original Journal number 1.
Journal 1, and we got Ledger 1.
Ledger 1.
I believe this to be the complete records of the Bank of Cannon Falls. And I can tell you who the first depositor was. I think you... Is it in that book?
In this one?
H.A. Van Kampen, I think it was. Wednesday.
Deposit of...
Here's the date right here. March 7th, is it?
Yeah. 1878.
1878. H.A. Van Kampen was the first one to deposit money into the Bank of Cannon Falls.
Okay.
And I think his brother come and borrowed it out, Ben Van Kampen, the next day.
Yep. It goes in one day and out the next.
Yep. But you can find Schofield's. There's one thing I've looked for many, many years and I can't find, and that is
You've spent hours going through these books.
Frederick Kowowitz. He run the brewery in Cannon Falls over by where Lawrence Meat's old locker was.
Yeah.
And I've never found a bottle, paper, never found any records of Kowowitz anywhere other than in the Beacon. So if he had barrels and with his name on it, could have. I don't think he had any glass bottles or anything. But Kowowitz is still off my limits as finding anything.
You're still hunting for them.
I'm still hunting for that.
Yeah.
But these books I bought one book and then 20 years later I found the other book. I knew where it was, but it took a long time to get a hold.
20 years to get a hold of it. Here we have a little advertisement piece.
Well, that's for the
Cannon Falls, Minnesota, October 24th, 1935, for the Masonic Lodge.
Masonic Lodge. Oriental number 34, 75th anniversary. They give those out.
Top hats were the thing back then. Here you got Philip Weberg.
Yeah. These are real collectible old wood matchboxes.
And one of these had to be in every home in Cannon
Yeah,
Falls.
there was. And
Starting on fires with farmer matches.
you just slid the box in. I wonder if there's
Yep, there's a box in here.
why do I have that in there? I don't know. There was your matches.
An old diamond matchbox.
You just slid them in there. Now who is this? That's Philip.
For those that have never used them, you would take the cover off. It would be full of matches. So when you slid it in, it would feed them out one at a time. Each time they went to start their fire in their cook stove. Okay.
So there are a lot of these advertising pieces out. He was a trucker, and this is Citizen State Bank, Cannon Falls, Minnesota. That one it had a lot of hard use.
Yeah.
But it's
all black. That was quite a collectible piece too.
And most of them have been painted. They painted them so you can't read what's underneath them.
Okay.
This here, where the bakery is right now, I think that this was Cannon Falls Bakery, P.O. What do you see? Joe was proprietor, and they made miracle bread.
That'd be pronounced Moe's.
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 I did find one other, and I gave it to the bakery. They got it hanging in the bakery back where you eat there. So
Okay.
it's
That's a
that's
rare
a tough
piece.
to find.
I've never seen it. This is a really old, well-known grocery store.
Lone Star Grocery. I think those books are from 1940s. But,
The old receipts that say Lone Star Grocery, Carl Olson, proprietor.
Yep.
Get a kick out of the phone numbers. Phone 58 and 105.
They were busy.
Yeah.
They had two phones.
You got to say a little bit about this picture.
I didn't know that was in there.
There's a picture here. Yours truly, Chuck Drometer, Paul Bringle. They're standing in front of the newly remodeled First National Bank. And in the center,
George Foreman.
boxing great champion George Foreman.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I know he was in town.
So you got a firm handshake?
Firm. Oh, his hands, his knuckles, it looked like he'd punched out taillights with them. They were just all scarred up, but he had a hand you cannot believe.
Yeah.
But he was in town one day for one of the
So you
people in the industrial park.
You showed him around Cannon Falls?
Yep.
And this sat on your desk for many years?
Yep, out at the auto dealership. Yeah.
All right, this is quite a piece.
Yep, I can tell you a lot about that.
It's all made of wood.
And I know nothing about it.
It says 1867.
And October probably 1st or 7th, I don't know.
Okay.
And it's all wood. It's all square nailed. I believe it to be Norwegian or Swedish. I have no idea what it is.
Looks to be a
It was a leather
leather
strap on
strap.
it. And it probably went over your shoulder. And I'm still guessing it's a fish creel.
At the meeting that night, everybody guessed it might be a fish creel too.
But they want mailboxes, they want purses, they want this, they want that.
And it
But
had
we
a
know it
couple-
isn't because it has holes in the
It has
bottom.
a couple drain holes in the bottom. That's why we were thinking very possibly would have been a fish creel. They were out at the Lake Billsby catching their supper. And
I had to buy it, but it's been a bad investment so far because I don't know what it is.
it's a great piece though, 1867, October.
Oh yeah, there's people who want to buy it.
Yeah.
But I'd like to find out what it is first.
All right, we've got an interesting piece.
Yep.
A picture and a key.
There's a key for the Falls House.
Falls Hotel, yeah.
It says Falls House on it, but
Okay.
it was the Falls Hotel. There's key for room 7. I don't know which room that was, but I got that many, many years ago from Karen Johnson before she died, and I put it in my collection. It's been there ever since. And you could mail it. If you found the key, you could mail it back in, and they'd pay for the postage, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Key for room number 7, and the key is lucky 13, so what a coincidence. And here's a photo of the Falls house that sits where the laundromat is today.
Right.
So that was taken down in the late 69 maybe? 68 or 69?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can remember when the ball hit it right there, wrecking ball, and it bounced right off. Never touched it.
Never phased it.
Never phased the building. It should have never been torn down.
Right. It was one of those that you wish would have never been raised back in the day.
Here, Luvy is a old stone mill, right where the little fall or on the little cannon.
Mm-hmm.
You turn around and read what it says on the back. It's very interesting.
Okay.
It was given to
Seymour Kraft, Cannon Falls, by Mrs. Walter Valentine,
Yep.
wife of Dr. Walter Valentine, Tracy, Minnesota.
I can't remember where I got that, but
And it's a view looking east, probably up on the old bridge.
from
You
the
can
bridge.
see the full pond, the stone mill. Now there's a rebuilt stone mill there that's sitting empty at this time. But you'd be going right on Mill Street, right in front of the old Lee Chevrolet, which is now the Cannon River Winery.
Yep. But that's a good old picture of the
Yep.
that was one of the two flour mills on the little cannon.
This might be tough for the cameras, but
We got bad shine on it. This is Elvin Holmes, electrician. Electrical supplies, wiring and repairing. Phone number 21 and 51.
so all this advertisement, as you were aware when you sat
In the barber shop.
So these were a barbershop mirror.
Yeah. This one's about 1919, barbershop mirrors. There's also, I have two mirrors that are in Nick's Diner, the long, narrow ones that advertise a car dealership, and one the clothing right across the street from where Nick is right now, where the pizza shop is that advertise that clothing shop, a dry cleaner. But
That had to be one of the best places to advertise,
Yep.
to remind them to come and get their supplies.
two of the mirrors that are in Nick's Diner, I found them in Duluth, Minnesota, and they belong to Pastor Nordside. The day they were tearing them out, he come by, picked them up on the they were laying out on the street, picked them up, and I never knew where any of them went
Wow.
till about 30 years later. And I got those two came from Duluth.
1919. Got a lot of little spoon advertisements.
Okay, the history of Cannon Falls you can find in sterling spoons. Anything that was of importance from 1900 to about 1920 probably ended up on a sterling spoon. And probably
The railroad bridge.
the old wood railroad bridge, it's been tore down, and then there was another one built, and that's been tore down. It was down by the old swimming pool.
The old stone mill.
The old
Dam.
stone mills that we just looked at.
Yep.
That's that one.
Post office.
This is the post office. It's on 4th and Main Street. 1904.
This is where that picnic basket went to the big falls out on Lake Billsby.
The Big Falls is a tough spoon to find, but
Probably
it
one
shows
of the rarest.
Big Falls is, and that's, that was around 1910.
We have the high school, Cannon Falls.
There's more. These are the easiest spoon to find. It's a high school. They got the old one, and then when they rebuilt in 1909 or 6 in that area. But you can find it with the old school and the new school, stone school.
First Congregational Church.
That one's tough to find, but the old stone church, it's a good spoon.
There's the Falls House we talked about.
Yep, that's the only one of these I've ever seen is this one of the Falls House.
This is just for Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
Yep, it's just advertising for Cannon Falls.
And then we have Colonel Colville.
That's one of the tougher spoons, sterling. These are all sterling spoons that were made, and probably most of them were given away, I'm sure, at the time.
And this is the old railroad bridge again.
Yep, there's one with the train going through it.
Okay.
The ones that are really good art. Is this Indian on here? Yeah.
Yep.
If you can find a spoon with an Indian handle, they're worth twice as much as any of
got
the other
the-
ones.
Ears of corn, arrows, and the Indian with a full headdress.
Yeah.
This one is the Falls House, Cannon Falls,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
That's probably the best spoon there.
Okay. Thank you.
But you can have the whole history of Cannon Falls in sterling.
1971 to 1975.
This is all the cars that Dablo sold in those 4 years.
Dablo
Plug-
Pontiac Buick.
Yeah. So anybody that bought a car in that is in here. Plus I got another one about this big. And the third one is owned by Steve, the first one. But we have all the records of all the cars sold by Dablo Pontiac Buick and Shremsky Dablo. It started Shremsky Dablo, then Dablo.
It's amazing that these were able to be saved. So many of these things would get thrown away, but
Yep.
quite a historic piece.
This is a fake gold watch. It's glass. It's a glass watch. It's a huckster's watch. The medicine man used this when they were selling medicine to coming around a horse and wagon. They sold medicine. They sold anything, and then they promised you a gold watch. But you couldn't open the box till you got home. And he'd look in there and say, "Yep, it's in there." And don't open the box till you get home. He said, "There's a gold watch in there," and this is what was in there when they got there. So most of them got thrown away. People were mad. And it's just a solid watch with gold gilding on it. And they're hard to find.
United States Census, 1900.
1900. The census was taken in 1900. Whoever in Cannon Falls wore that when they took the census. So
They went around town finding
census.
out how many people were in each home.
Yeah, I took
keep
the
track.
census. And I also have a 1910 one.
What's your guess of how many people were in Cannon Falls in 1900?
About 1,300.
Okay.
This, I can't find anything out about it, and the history books don't have anything in it, but it was Black's Grocery, Cannon Falls, Minnesota. I think it was 1934 they were in business, and I think that's the 1 year they were in business.
Would that be related to Ray Black? Jim?
I've tried to find out, and I cannot find out anything on it.
Because Ray Black lived in Cannon Falls, so
he
it
lived
could have
north
been
of town. Could have been.
Could have been a grandpa or a great grandpa. There's a little key of some sort.
This here, this is a padlock for a skeleton and key door. When you took your unlocked door, when you lock your door with the skeleton key, and you took this here, you can see it turns.
Yeah.
Little thing comes out. You stuff that in the lock. You turned it sideways.
So no one could stick a key
in, and you took this out.
Okay.
And
so either inside or outside.
So
if you left, they could not get in.
Nobody could get in. This is about 1854. I don't know where I got it, but every locksmith wants to buy it. But it was made just especially for skeleton key door locks.
Now we've got a bottle. Schofield Brothers, Druggist, Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
Okay, and this bottle was made before 1900. You can always tell the seam of the bottle comes up to about right there, stops, and the rest of it, you can see all the lines go around this way.
Yeah.
This was all hand turned and sized for a cork. Oh. This is a cork bottle. And they also have them for a couple other druggists in town. P.A. Peterson, I know I have that one. And I got a few sizes of this.
A lot of those are probably laying underground in people's outhouses.
Outhouses, yep. Cisterns and outhouses.
Yep.
But then there are newer ones than that also. I don't know if anybody wants to see this or not, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Now this is called what?
It's called a Chinese spoon compass. You're going to demonstrate it.
All right. It's a little metal lead or
no? It's a spoon, a little spoon.
Steel spoon.
You set it in the top middle of there.
Just let go of it.
Let go of it, and it points. Chinese must have been backwards because it points south.
Right. And it actually is pointing south from here.
Yep.
So our compasses point north. That one always returns south. It's got to be something at the bottom of the world for the Chinese.
And it doesn't have to sit on that piece. That's too rough a surface.
Smooth
Or
surface.
if I set it here,
It'll always go to a magnetic south.
south, yeah. It was invented in about 220 BC. They argue 220 or 400 BC.
Okay.
That one isn't that old, I can tell you that. But it's interesting.
Yep.
Here, Luvy is one of the great finds I ever, and I didn't buy it because it was political. I bought it because I was collecting jugs.
We can see that on TV now. It's two small stone crocks. They have the holes in them. It's like a little jug with a handle. One brown and one gray with a label.
And you can read what it says there.
And few political collector contain this unusual pair of jugs from the 1888 election. One jug bears the name Cleveland and Thurman. The other Harrison and Morton. Note the letters HA are missing on the Republican item. It is seldom that this item is made available from existing collections, and few turn up today. But they're totally stoneware.
Yep, and those are rare.
Okay.
I would get, right now those are about $500 a piece, those jugs.
1888. This is just a few pictures looking down Main Street. The stone mill, that's one that we haven't seen.
No, that's of the bridge.
Yeah. And that's what they have on the mural on the attorney's office now, on Burkhart's office. With all the murals that have been put up in town, we have this one right down across from the fire hall.
This postcard is 1907.
What was actually going on out on the street there?
I think it's a political speech going on there of some type, right in the center of town.
Okay. I've never seen these. You got to tell us what they are.
Okay, I bought this from a lady on the east side of town. She only sold it to me if I promised never to sell it and eventually give it to the museum. And it come from the Cannon Falls Transit Camp. Well, they said there wasn't one. But if you read right here,
yeah, it says John Nixon, Transient Camp, Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
so
John
they
Nixon.
thought maybe that was a fake. So I found another one. And it says
John Nixon,
Nixon Transit Camp, Cannon Falls.
and it's Nickson.
And they're made the same way.
The transit camp would have been up where by the hospital
Well,
that they've just torn down now. Was it up on the west
Well,
end of town or out by the
it
fairgrounds?
was out by the fairgrounds, I think,
Okay.
according to what I've been able to find out about it.
And for
No nails. The only thing they had when they made them, they mustn't have metal. They used 2 screws,
In the
put the
handle,
handle, and 2
couple
nails.
tacks there.
Otherwise, they're all wood.
But for people that had a question, a transient camp would have been
With hobos.
Hobos, no one with no job.
No job.
They tried to give them something to do, and they could probably peddle these for pennies.
So if you got a basket that looks like this at home, and it don't have any writing on it, and it's made this way, it more than likely came from Cannon Falls.
Cannon Falls Transient Camp. Very rare piece. One more item to finish our collection tonight. We had this at the museum meeting, trying to let people guess what it might be. It's a very old piece of wood. It's not a barber pole.
No, it's not a barber pole.
I'll let you explain what it is.
It's before they had. Well, this is an old horse-drawn hearse, and it had 4 glass sides, and three glass sides and the door in the end, and it's pulled by horses. They went from funeral home to the cemetery, and the glass fit here and out this way. There is the other part of this is in the museum right now.
Cannon Falls Museum. If you go to the museum, you can see pictures of this hearse when it was perfectly immaculate black with long, wide glass panels. So as the hearse went down the street with a horse, pulled by a horse, all in black, one driver, you could see the coffin inside. And the story behind this is kind of interesting. Virgil Qualley was younger at that time.
And both of him and I worked at Gordon Lindahl, or at the Lindahl Tire.
And you talked to Gordon Lindahl about, and this came up?
Yep. He said, I know where part of it is laying, and he left and he come back with this and gave it to me.
So it was out in the woods south of Cannon Falls, kind of south of where the campground is now.
He never told me where it was, or I'd be there.
That's where we're guessing, yeah. Okay. But these pieces were originally laying there, all that was left.
Yeah.
And one is in your collection, and we have another one that was brought to the museum a couple of years ago. So you can imagine this perfectly black. You have to stop at the museum to see it, because that picture of that hearse and the horse, it's a beautiful sight. But this is a very rare and historic piece. And it's a fitting piece to close with.
A hearse?
Yeah. Chuck, we'd like to thank you for sitting down and talking with us tonight. And we'd like to thank Steve Dablow for helping set up all this, and Bill and John. Bill Bramer's he's been hauling things in, and John Otto's out there taking pictures. So from Chuck Drometer and Luvy Rapp, we'd just like to say thank you and stop into the museum.